This might be the stupidest video I've ever made and ever will make. My name is Graeldon and I'm reviewing Steam games in alphabetical order to find the hidden gems among the piles of garbage, and today we're ranking every single 100 hidden whatever on Steam. Because I've played them all. Let's do this. Alright, so here's the deal. We've already played through a decent amount of the numbered games on Steam, and we've hit the 100 section, and there are a lot, I mean a lot of 100 hidden style games. So many in fact that doing one video per game would be insanity. So, to spare you from the utter insanity that I've endured on your behalf, you're welcome by the way, here's what's going to happen. Ty, show them the tier list. That's right, we're ranking every single one of these games to figure out which of these are actually worth your time and or money. S tier is the highest rank possible. Only the most exceptional, premium, top tier games will be placed here. Make your bets in the comments below how many games you think will make it. A tier games are good, decent games that are just missing some polish to move to the next tier. B tier games are above average and competent, but show some flaws. C tier are perfectly average games, usually with some flaws but won't make you suffer while playing them. D tier games were unpleasant to play at the best of times. E tier made me want to quit and have elements that are outright broken, frustrating or unfair. As for F tier is reserved for the scummiest, most broken games. Playing these made me wish that I was walking barefoot on Lego while carrying weights instead. So, there you have it. Those are our rankings, but keep in mind the following two things. Firstly, these are my personal rankings. Your personal preferences may be different to mine. And secondly, an S tier game on this list does not translate to an S tier game in any other tier list. An S tier on this would still only placed as a C at best on a best games of all time tier list. So, with the stage set, let's get into the games in the only way we know how. Alphabetically. Starting with 100 Aliens Cats. Developed and published by 100 Cozy Games, this is the first of many we'll take a look at by them today. If the name of the game takes the form of 100 noun cats, it's probably by these devs. As we'll see as the trend for the majority of these games, most will be built using the same engine and general structure, with a few differences here and there for the more adventurous devs. Here, we're treated to a pretty basic main menu and an options menu with sliders for everything except graphics, because, come on, let's be real, this is a static 2D image. Right, onto the gameplay, if you can actually call it that. You can zoom in or out with a mouse wheel, pan the screen by clicking and dragging, and left click on cats to find them. Not exactly groundbreaking, and we'll see similar controls in most games, so unless I say otherwise, please assume these are the default controls from here onwards. The artwork showcases some pretty detailed line work, and the cats are relatively well hidden, with some absolute nonsensical ones that barely count as cats. You've got some normal looking ones, and then some disfigured ones that are stretched to strange proportions or are literally just cat faces stuck onto things. They explode into confetti when clicked on, the cat is removed from the scene, and a meow sound effect plays. There's only about 10 different sound effects, so you'll hear them a lot, but according to the store page, these are quote-unquote real meow sounds, which is not something I thought would be a major positive until you've experienced some of the games to come further in the list. You also get a Steam achievement for each cat found, so expect a lot of pop-ups as you're playing, which have the very real risk of obscuring any cat that may be hiding in the lower right of the screen. Each achievement does give a unique name for each cat though, so that's kinda fun. There's a counter at the bottom of the screen that tracks the number of cats remaining, and when you get to 10 or less, a hint function becomes available to help you track down the last few. I didn't use it in this one, but it will show you the general area that a cat is hiding in. Lastly, the music was pretty decent and looped nicely, so no complaints there. The game itself was free, but as we'll see with all the entries by 100 Cozy Games, there is a second level available for $1.29 Canadian, an art book for $6.49 Canadian, and the soundtrack for an extra $6.49 Canadian if you really want to show the devs some love. All in all, this one was pretty easy to beat, had some helpful systems in place, and took a total of 6 minutes to finish. I had an okay time, so it's a solid B tier. Pretty good start, all things considered. By the way, the B stands for Best Meow Sounds. Actually, Ty, can we please get some stats tracked on screen? Let's get counters for the total time played, total Canadian dollars spent, and the total number of achievements earned. Thanks. Moving on to the next game, 100 Asian Cats. And don't worry, we'll begin to speed up these reviews so this video doesn't end up being an hour long, even though I know some of you would actually love that. As you may have guessed from the name and art style, this is another entry from 100 Cozy Games. All of the menus and UI are literally the same, but I would say that the art and music are better in this one. The cats are also less deformed than before, but this time they don't vanish from the scene, but are instead highlighted in yellow. This makes it a bit easier to see where you've already been, as they tend not to be clustered too closely together. Otherwise, this game is very similar to the previous one, but feels more polished. It took 8 minutes to beat, was totally free with optional paid DLC for extra content, but I need to give a word of warning. There are more DLC options this time, including 5 donation DLCs in different sizes, starting at small and going up to 2XL. The small DLC costs $1.29 and gives you a bronze cat, presumably a Steam item of some kind. There's no further context given. Weirdly, the 2XL option costs less than the XL option, which is the most expensive, at a whopping $259.99, and purchasing this will unlock a diamond cat. And this means that the game plus all the DLC would cost a total of $425.02. But keep in mind that it's all optional and you could simply play the free part like I did and then move on. Oh, and you'll also get another 100 achievements. Even with the ridiculous DLC, this one was an A rank for me, but only because you can ignore the DLC. Also, the A stands for at least the game is free. Next up is 100 Capitalist Cats, and you guessed it, this is another one from 100 Cozy Games. The artwork in this one is super large and detailed, the cats are well hidden, and all of the previous elements are continued in this entry. Other than that, there's not too much else to say. Weirdly, 100 Capitalist Cats doesn't have the tiered donation DLC, and let's be real, if any of their games should have overpriced DLC that gives nothing in return, it should be this one. Oh wait, there it is. 10 Steam Workshop items available for $13.69 each. Still not as expensive as 100 Asian Cats, but still feels like a cheap cash grab, but thankfully it can be totally ignored. This one also took me 8 minutes to beat, yay for being consistent, and gave me another 100 achievements. Also A rank, a good time for a hidden object game anyway. The A stands for Adam Smith, the founder of capitalism. 100 Cozy Games is back with another entry on the list, 100 Christmas Cats. It's cats in a Christmas scene. What were you expecting? This one features the same colouring method as the last two, but doubles down on hiding cats in completely unfair places by having ones with just a bit of the tail or head sticking out. In addition to this, one of the first ones is literally licking its balls, and some are just showing you their entire butthole. So, standard cats, really. In addition to being frustrated by the BS hiding places, the music is also quite grating and doesn't loop properly, making this an experience that I just wanted to get over and done with as quickly as possible. This one took slightly longer to beat, coming in at 13 minutes. It's also free, but we see the return of the paid DLC options, this time with the 2XL one correctly priced. Oh, and now there's also a $13.69 Steam Workshop item for sale, but only one this time. Another 100 achievements earned, but this one comes in as our first C rank. The C stands for Christmas gift from an aunt that barely knows you, so you'll use it once to make her happy while she's around and then store it in a cupboard and forget about it forever. Surprising absolutely no one, it's another entry by 100 Cozy Games, 100 Dino Cats. Are they dinos or are they cats? Turns out, it doesn't really matter, but in case you were wondering, the answer is both. They managed to get the music to loop correctly this time, and none of them are hidden in ridiculous places, but that also means that this one is stupidly easy to beat, taking only 3 minutes to find every cat. We're back to 3 optional DLCs, and for some reason, 9 Steam Workshop items this time. I'm still not sure why they aren't consistent with this, but I'm probably playing these out of order in terms of release date, and they were probably experimenting to see which, if any, items would actually be purchased so they could focus on those for future games. The music is okay, the game is free, and I got another 100 achievements. Solid B tier. It didn't last long enough to annoy me and score lower. The B stands for better believe we're reviewing all these 100 Hidden X games. For our final, for now, entry in the 100 Cozy Games list, we're now on the hunt for 100 funny cats. No, they don't tell jokes or look that funny really, this just happens to be set in a carnival. For whatever reason, the music is much louder in this one and also doesn't loop correctly, making for a grating experience. Otherwise, it was similar to the previous one, fairly easy with no BS hiding places. The game is again free with 3 paid DLC options and 1 Steam Workshop item and another 100 achievements. This one also took only 3 minutes to finish, and I'm glad that was the case as now we can finally move on to something by a different developer. C tier. The C stands for cat. 100 Hidden Aliens is the first of many, many games by Anatoly Loganovskik, but the good news is that we'll see a bit more variation from here onwards. There's no options menu at all, which means that you can't adjust the music, which may or may not be a bad thing depending on your personal musical preferences. The controls are also different, as you're not able to zoom in or out, and the scene only scrolls up or down by moving the cursor towards the edge. It's entirely vertical. The art is similar to that of 100 Cozy Games, but with less of a focus on a complete scene and focusing on a meshing of different objects, both recognizable and abstract. In this one, we're tasked with finding aliens, but not showing what we're looking for right away. Turns out, it's these cyclopean jelly bean shaped dudes, and not any other pop culture version of an alien like the Grey Men or Daleks. The art is intentionally busy, offering multiple hiding places for these aliens, and we'll see that this is a common theme for games by Anatoly, but it's also a fine balance between causing frustration and creating a fair challenge. In this case, it's veered into frustrating territory, as you'll find yourself clicking on anything that looks even vaguely alien-shaped. If this already wasn't challenging enough, there's also no hint system. So even if you're down to the last one to find, you're on your own. Well, unless you use a guide that someone created, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I did this on a few occasions, just in order to keep things moving. Speaking of keeping things moving, let's wrap this up. This game cost $1.29, took 7 minutes to beat, and gave me 100 achievements that all say, okay. Compared to the 100 Noun Cats games, I found myself much more frustrated and starting to dread what was coming later. D tier. D for didn't have fun. Changing to yet another developer, let's have a look at the game with the longest name in today's list, 100 Hidden Animal Nauts, Felicat and Leica. Developed and published by Animal Studio, these devs appear to focus on making games with an educational angle, specifically in relation to space, as can be seen in the reference to the fact that Leica was the first dog in space. That's as far as it goes though, as not only was the first cat in space called Felicet, not Felicat, they also didn't learn how to make a good hidden objects game. The most obvious problem is the art style, or lack thereof. There's a random assortment of various space-related items, including rockets, satellites, and astronauts, but the art style is different between them, indicating that they've pulled a bunch of assets from elsewhere and thrown them together. On top of that, the art for the animal nauts features the same 3 or 4 poses over and over again, and they're barely hidden, instead just superimposed over the background assets. Not only that, but some of them are shrunk down to an incredibly small, frankly unfair size, so much so that the lines fade into the background and they can barely be seen at all. Add on top of this the lack of a zoom function, and you've got a pretty terrible time on your hands. But it gets worse. Not only are there 2 incredibly repetitive music tracks playing on repeat, but there are also randomly interspersed sound effects of dogs barking, cats meowing, and astronauts freaking out. And all of this is on top of the sound effects that play whenever you find a hidden animal, resulting in a grating cacophony of noises. Speaking of the cats meowing, I'm convinced that some of the sounds were added by people that have no idea what a cat sounds like. I'm honestly stumped as to how someone looked at this and thought, yeah, this is worth $2.59. And I'm even more perplexed that according to the reviews, people apparently agree. Is it challenging? Sure. Is it fun? Hell no. Is there achievement spam? Actually, no. There's only 11 achievements, 3 of them are for Leica, and 1 still says add description. This one took 35 minutes to complete and earned the first F tier for this video. F for find a better game to play. We're now back to Anatoly, so let's see if 100 Hidden Birds improves over 100 Hidden Aliens. All of these games are built from the same backbone. No options, vertically scrolling scene, a counter at the bottom, and no hints. So, assume this to be true unless I tell you otherwise. In other words, this is basically more of the same, but with birds. And some of the hiding places here are particularly evil, which you're either going to love or hate. For someone looking for a proper challenge, this will do it, but for someone simply trying to clear these games as efficiently as possible, this was frustrating as heck. To the game's credit, they've managed to blend some of the birds into the background in pretty clever and inventive ways, and it forces you to pay attention to every little detail. In the gameplay footage, you'll probably see my cursor pass over at least one bird at some point and not even realize that I'd missed it until much, much later. The music is decent but could loop better, but I didn't mind it overall. This one also cost $1.29, gave me 100 OK achievements and took 23 minutes to beat. Overall it was better than 100 Hidden Aliens, so I'm awarding it a C tier. The C stands for crying myself to sleep at night. And now for the first direct sequel in this tier list, 100 Hidden Birds 2. It's another 100 Hidden Birds. I really don't know what else you were expecting. The main difference here is that the music loops more smoothly and the scene now has several animated elements, which makes the game much more appealing to look at for an extended period of time, which you'll be doing because the hiding places for the birds are much, much more devious. Almost outrageously so. Take a look at this one I managed to find through sheer chance, hiding behind the boxes. Even after clicking on it, you can barely see the blue highlight peeking out from behind the objects. I was so appalled by this, and now dreading the rest of the games if this was a taste of what was still to come in the future. At this moment, not even halfway through the game, I was sure this was going to be another F tier. Right up until I discovered that you can interact with some parts of the scene, and that by pushing this button, the boxes are moved out of the way to reveal the bird. This revelation completely changed my opinion and allowed me to focus on the positives of the challenging, but fair as I now had learned, hiding places, energetic music, and engaging visuals. At a price of $1.29, this one took 23 minutes to beat, gave another 100 achievements, and claimed a space on the A tier. The A stands for almost F tier. Moving on, the cats are back in 100 Hidden Cats. It's 100 Hidden Birds, but with cats instead. Except this one also has birds in it. They've done a great job of working the cats into the background without feeling too unfair, and there's a few moving parts to the scene that help to make everything feel more dynamic and visually interesting. The music is also pretty decent, without an abrupt loop, making this a fairly solid entry. It cost $1.29, I got another 100 achievements, and it took 23 minutes to beat. A tier. The A stands for another 100 cats, please. Speaking of, here's 100 Hidden Cats 2. We've previously seen that sequels tend to up the ante in terms of quality, so my expectations were high here. High for a 100 hidden objects game anyway. As it turns out, maybe getting hyped over 100 hidden objects games isn't great for your mental health. Anyway, as you may have guessed, this is basically just more of the same. The artwork continues to be lovely, there's more dynamic elements in the scene, but now the cats are somewhat more warped and distorted compared to the previous game. Some look closer to a raccoon, or a squirrel. If you define a cat as having a head, triangular ears, a body, and a tail, then yes, these are all cats. Some might be fuzzy slugs with ears though. Overall, this one was pretty good. As is the norm, it took me a few passes up and down to find all of them, and as always, I tend to get stuck on the last one or two, but I eventually got them all without needing to look up any guides. And I managed it faster than the previous game, coming in at a final time of 10 minutes. The game cost $2.59 though, making it the most expensive game by Anatoly so far for no discernible reason. I did get another 100 achievements though, so that's nice if you're into that sort of thing. Solid A tier. A for, hey, I found another 100 cats. And now, things start to get weird. Next up is 100 hidden cats in America. Or as it's listed in the Steam library and Steam installer menu, Twilight Story, A Quiet House. That should tell you plenty about what you're about to witness. Developed and published by MS, this game is, in a nutshell, unpleasant. From the moment you see the title screen, you can likely tell that something is off, and if you're thinking this looks like AI art, you're probably right. It's got that phenomenon where everything looks fine at a glance, but when you look more closely, especially at background details, things look off. Smudged facial features, too many limbs, bodies that are half one color and half another. The game also launches in a windowed mode, and there are no options for full screen or even to maximize the window. Hopefully, Ty will zoom in so you can see better and not show anything embarrassing in the background. Here's the thing though, the AI art somehow gets worse, because the art style shown on the title screen is completely different to the actual game. The best way I can describe this style is if you took the iconic style of Dr. Seuss books, turned it into watercolor, and then put it through a blender. There's a few chunks that look okay, but the rest is a mess. And somehow, it still gets worse. Because unlike the previous games that are one scene with 100 hidden things, this game has 5 things hidden in each scene and a total of 20 different scenes. So the cats aren't exactly hidden, but instead you're looking for 5 specific cats in the scene, shown by the cutouts on the right of the screen. And as far as I can tell, they've used AI to also identify and cut out the cats. You know how you get those random prove you're a human tests on the internet where you have to identify images with certain objects? Well, there's a reason that AI can't normally pass those. They suck at seeing objects in images with busy backgrounds. So it's no surprise that some of the cats you're expected to find look barely anything like cats. This was always going to happen when you ask an AI to find cats in art generated by AI. The icing on this absolute turd of a cake is the obnoxious, repetitive, grating music that will play on repeat for the 6 minutes it takes to finish the game. The final slap in the face is there aren't any achievements. But thankfully, the game is free, and it's finished. Say hello to our second F tier. The F stands for fairly sure that's not a cat. But wait! There's more. We're straight into round 2 of AI-generated cat hell with 100 hidden cats in China. This is basically the same game as before, with one minor change and one major one. The minor change is that you'll see yellow stars on a red background here and there, as opposed to the absolutely ruined Lady Liberty in the previous game. I also find it amusing that some of the animals are definitely dogs, not cats, but I can't say I'm particularly surprised at this point. Oh, and the music is exactly the same as the last game as well. Now, the major change is that this game isn't free. This time, you'll have to pay $1.29 to experience this AI-generated hellscape. This one also took 6 minutes to beat and gave a total of 0 achievements, which means all I'm left with is an uncomfortable feeling of shame, which is exactly what the devs should be feeling, not me. Shame on you, MS. Shame on you. F tier. The F stands for financially and morally corrupt developers. I think we need a bit of a mental cleanser after that, so I want you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself standing on a beach. You can feel the warm sun on your skin, the cool breeze carrying the faint smell and taste of salt, and the coarse sand and seashells between your toes. You can hear the gentle lapping of the waves on the shore and the soft footsteps of someone approaching you. Is it your friends? Your partner? Maybe your parents? You open your eyes and see this horrific fish-covered monstrosity and scream in terror before they grab your arms and drag you into the ocean and deep, deep below the surface. Welcome to 100 Hidden Cthulhu Fish. Developed and published by both FM Simple Games Studio and Sons of Welder, this is a Cthulhu-themed hidden object game, in case you somehow hadn't pieced that together yet. It's nice to see the return of an actual title screen with a hand-drawn explanation of controls plus sliders for music and sound effects. There's also a level select screen, as this game features not just one scene to find 100 hidden fish in, but 4, totaling 400 hidden fish. But don't get too excited, there's only 100 achievements. The artwork is lovely in a slightly unsettling way, but that's a good thing because unlike the AI art from the last 2 games, here it's actually intentional. The fish are also well hidden and vary in difficulty from being outright obvious to outright devious. There's no hint system, but none of them are hidden in an unfair way, so I'd personally say that it's not required here. The music is somewhat generic, but calming and loops well, so it doesn't disrupt the flow, and I personally like the celebratory but somewhat dulled fanfare when finishing a level. It's silly, and I approve of it. It's fun when games don't take themselves too seriously. With the amount of content available here, the $3.39 price feels justified, and it took me 10 minutes to finish the game. Even though it was short, I was never bored or frustrated, and the art was delightful. S tier. The S stands for Sleeping with the Fishes, like Cthulhu. Moving on, we're back to another entry by Anatoly, and this one features the second silliest thing we'll be looking for: 100 cupcakes. Or we would be if this game were able to launch. I tried reinstalling it, I looked for a beta version in the settings, I even tried reaching out to the dev, but got no response. Currently, this game is simply unplayable. Looking at the images and description in the store though, it looks like this one was designed for kids, and you can see that reflected in the simplicity of the artwork, although, according to the comments, that didn't make the cupcakes any easier to find. The game cost $1.29, has 100 achievements that I couldn't get, and took a total of 0 minutes to finish because I couldn't start it. F tier. The F stands for Fails to Launch. Next up is the game with the actual silliest thing to find: 100 cups. I don't know what Anatoly was thinking when putting this game together, but I do have a question for him. Who hurt you? Seriously, who hurt you? This game is brutal. The artwork is, as always, lovely, with this particular one being one of the most surreal, featuring everything from dinosaurs to gorillas to ships, cities, and statues of death. It also features probably the most aggressive sounding music I could have ever imagined I'd be finding cups to, which causes some weird cognitive dissonance, but that's not the most egregious part. The biggest problem with this game lies simply with the concept of what we're trying to find. The question is, what is a cup? Apparently, in a 2D plane, it's any enclosed object with a connected handle. This is a cup, and this is a cup, and this is also a cup. Are you starting to see the problem? In previous games, the thing we were trying to find usually had some kind of identifying feature, like ears, a tail, or even eyes in the case of the aliens. Here at times it's worse than trying to find a needle in a haystack. At least a needle has a chance of pricking your hand, or you'll touch it and it feels different. This scene has so many fake outs worked into it with things that look like they should be cups. but aren't, that I felt like I was actually slowly losing my mind. This one took me 21 minutes to beat, gave me another 100 achievements, and cost $1.29 and a portion of my soul to beat. I somehow had less fun playing this than the AI generated hellscapes, because those at least made me laugh while I was weeping for humanity, whereas this one just made me hate my life. So this one earns an E tier. The E stands for, that's technically a mug, not a cup. It's time to see if Anatoly can redeem himself by featuring 100 of man's best friends. Dogs. Not only does this one feature several moving parts in the scene, but it also keeps things visually interesting by changing the direction of gravity partway down. If you have keen eyes, you'll also spot some cats, birds, and snails hiding around the place. Don't worry, we'll be hunting for snails later. The music has a cool groove and funkiness to it, and the dogs are generally fairly well hidden, with a few tricky ones thrown in. I managed to find them all without needing to use a guide, so that's always a good sign. It took me 12 minutes to beat this one, it gave me another 100 achievements, and cost $1.29. Solid A tier. The A stands for all dogs are good dogs. Of all the things I was expecting to find in these games, Eternals was not one of them. Looking at the model, a genderless human silhouette, you'd think that this one would be pretty easy to complete, and you'd be mostly correct. The majority of the Eternals are pretty easy to spot because their simple shape stands out against the busy background. But if that's all you're looking for, you will never finish this particular game, because what 100 Hidden Eternals does really well is integrate hidden objects into environmental puzzles. I don't want to reveal all the secrets, but here's 2 examples. Firstly, this owl that's fast asleep. At first it doesn't seem like you can interact with it, but owls are nocturnal creatures, so if you press N to turn on night mode, the owl wakes up, allowing you to interact with it and reveal a hidden Eternal. The second example is this guy doing sit-ups. He'll do 1 every time you touch him with the cursor, and if you get the count in the mirror to 10, you'll reveal yet another Eternal. There are a handful of these mini puzzles scattered throughout the scene, and while seemingly a minor addition, these majorly change the overall experience, making this feel less like a hidden object game and more like a light puzzle game. I went into this one with relatively low expectations and ended up being pleasantly surprised. Given the complexity, this game is slightly more expensive than the others, coming in at $2.59, and it took 13 minutes to beat and gave yet another 100 achievements. S tier. The S stands for soup. Next up is 100 Hidden Fish. Sadly, the good streak is now trending downwards, but not too far. There's not too much to write home about for this game. The fish are fairly well hidden, there are a few animated elements to keep things visually interesting, but the music wasn't particularly great. It was just an okay experience, which is funny because that looks kind of like a fish. It cost $1.29, gave 100 achievements, and took 6 minutes to beat. C tier, because there's plenty of fish in the sea. Moving from fish to frogs, the artwork in this one is pretty cute. The frogs are fairly well hidden without being too unfair, and the music is okay. This one was overall a pleasant experience, made all the sweeter by the game being completely free. And unlike the 100 Noun Cats games, there's not even any optional DLC available for purchase. Possibly as a result of this, 100 Hidden Frogs actually has a small speedrunning scene. Shout out to Miss Travels for letting me know about this. There are currently 16 entries, with the fastest time being a blindingly quick 39 seconds. Looking at the recording of this attempt, I find myself questioning the purpose of aim trainers when you could just be playing something like this to test your precision clicking. If speedrunning is your thing, this could be a fun game to attempt, but don't come complaining to me if you get a wrist injury. I would have qualified for last place with a playtime of 9 minutes, 8 minutes 18 seconds of actual searching, mostly because the final frog eluded me for just over 5 minutes. My reward for completion was yet another 100 achievements, and I'll admit that the game being free elevates its ranking on the tier list slightly, so I'm giving this one an A rank. The A stands for Amphibians. It's time for yet another sequel, 100 Hidden Frogs 2. Unfortunately, this one had several issues with my recording software, which I didn't realise until after I'd finished the game, so apologies for the slightly different footage. This one is the most recent game from Anatoly and shows a significant increase in the amount of time and effort invested, and it's created in Unreal Engine instead of Unity. Notably, this is also the first game in 3D that's appeared on this list. At the start of the game, I thought this was just a stylistic choice, so imagine my surprise when I discovered that you can actually move the cursor to the side of the screen to rotate everything, like a fully rendered diorama. On top of this, they've clearly taken learnings from previous titles, including animated elements, mini-puzzles that require collecting other objects to progress, and using lighting to help obscure where the frogs are hidden. The music also feels higher quality and was enjoyable to listen to. Even in 3D, this game retains a decent level of difficulty, taking me a total of 12 minutes to beat, and I earned another 100 achievements in the process. Unlike 100 Hidden Frogs 1, the sequel isn't free, and is one of the most expensive games we'll be featuring today, coming in at $3.89. Even so, this is an easy S tier ranking. The S stands for, somehow we haven't peaked yet. Next up is a scene right out of your grandparents' backyard. It's time to find 100 hidden garden gnomes. We're back to the familiar, tried and tested 2D art style with no moving parts. The gnomes themselves have a fairly irregular shape, making them difficult to hide in the environment, so this one was surprisingly easy and I was done in literally 2 minutes. It cost $1.29 and gave me 100 achievements, but it scores lower because of how ridiculously easy it was to beat. This one earns a C tier. C for could have been hidden better. Keeping with the theme of things you might find in your backyard, we're now on the hunt for 100 hidden hares. We're back to a higher quality, more detailed scene with moving parts, and some of the hares were pretty well hidden into the environment, but not unfairly so. The music wasn't great and doesn't loop particularly well, but this one is also fairly easy, taking only 8 minutes to beat, so at least you won't be listening to it for too long. Of course, there were another 100 achievements earned, and the game itself cost $2.59. Not sure why this one was more expensive. Maybe including moving elements requires increasing the cost. Anyway, this one earns a B tier. The B is for bunnies. And yes, I know that bunnies and hares are different, but come on, let me have this one. In the words of Monty Python, and now for something completely different. Let's take a look at 100 Hidden Kooky, Sand and Sun. Developed and published by Roshan Naushad, this is closer to a Where's Wally or Where's Waldo book than anything we've seen so far. Also, comment below if you know this guy as Wally or Waldo. Firstly, the title screen is beautifully stylized and includes an appropriately themed options menu. The settings inside are fairly limited, but were we really expecting anything else? The real treat is the actual scene, which is massive. The level of zoom is frankly quite impressive, and there is a corresponding level of detail. In this beach scene, you're not looking for one specific object, but instead, you're looking for anything that looks out of the ordinary or kooky. It might be a person with strange proportions, performing an activity they shouldn't, or just some animals getting up to mischief. I personally really liked this approach, as the potential variety means that you need to examine the scene carefully, allowing the player to soak in all the details. The music is also appropriately summary and not too repetitive, and the devs have included a secondary objective of finding 100 bottles scattered throughout the scene. Some of the things are a bit tricky to spot, but there is a hint mode available to help. However, you can't rely on it, as you have a limited number of hints that need to be recharged by playing minigames. It's an interesting idea, and I think it helps to break up the gameplay with a bit of variety, reducing frustration from staring at the scene for too long without finding anything. All in all, I had a lovely time playing this one. The game cost $1.96, has a custom achievement for each thing found, and took 24 minutes to beat, so I'm awarding it an S tier. The S stands for sunscreen. Coming right back to your regularly scheduled programming, we're now on the hunt for 100 hidden mice. We're back to basics with this one. A single, simple scene with no moving parts, average music, no hints, and some frankly unfair hiding places. It doesn't really do anything wrong, but it wasn't anything special either. It costs $1.29, gives 100 achievements, and took 6 minutes to beat. This one is a middle of the road C tier. The C stands for cheese. Our next game, 100 Hidden Mushrooms, is slightly different to previous games from this dev, as rather than hunting for slight variations on an object, there are quite a few unique models here. Unfortunately, many of them are in utterly ridiculous hiding places that are infuriatingly difficult to see. It's also the only one that doesn't colour the objects, but instead just changes the colour of the outline. This makes the scene an absolute mess to look at as you progress, which, combined with the overly loud and obnoxious techno music, made this an unpleasant experience for the entire 13 minutes this took to complete. I got another 100 achievements and paid the price of $1.29 and some of my sanity. D tier. D for detritus, the dirt that mushrooms love, and where this game belongs. We tend to have more luck with animals, so let's see if 100 Hidden Rams can redeem things. And the initial impressions were positive, as it felt like a return to form, with better music and moving parts to the scene. The rams weren't too difficult to find, but a few were in tricky spots. While confirming that the price was indeed yet again $1.29, a review caught my eye where someone had spent nearly 10 hours playing this game. Whoever you are, Wasabi TM, I hope you're okay. I had a decent time with this one, taking only 4 minutes to complete it and earning another 100 achievements in the process. B tier. B for bah, of course. Keeping with the animals, let's hunt for 100 hidden snails. We're back to basics again with a simple scene and no moving parts. The scene itself is smaller than normal, resulting in a lot of the snails being grouped quite closely together. This is offset by the fact that they're a lot more well hidden, with some of them being an Anatoly special, incredibly unfair and evil. Mostly because there's an entire section down the bottom that doesn't appear until you've found everything else. This one costs, drumroll please, $1.29, gave 100 achievements, and took 7 minutes to beat. C tier. The C stands for currently trying to figure out if snails are just entitled slugs, or if slugs are homeless snails. Moving on to the last sequel in this list, 100 Hidden Snails 2. At first glance, you'd be forgiven for thinking this one is more of the same, but with slightly more deformed looking snails. Seriously, some of them you can't even tell where the body begins and the shell ends, it's all a bit of a mess. The artwork is also noticeably less busy than previous games, and it's a fairly small scene too. But after finding the 50th snail, something magical and unexpected happens. The entire scene comes to life in full colour and detail, and the music changes to a new track as well. And now, instead of highlighting the snails in red, they are removed from the scene when found, which gives a certain amount of satisfaction to cleaning things up. Things are also noticeably more difficult, as some snails are simply outlines hidden in the background, making the last 50 much more tricky to find. I applaud the innovation, and wish it hadn't taken roughly 30 games to see some innovation. As this one is more complex, it's also more expensive, coming in at $2.59, taking 10 minutes to beat, and awarding another 100 achievements. So this game earns an A tier. A for Alien Shark Dude Chilling in a Tub. And finally, I'm pleased to announce the last Anatoly game for this list, 100 Hidden Turtles. Don't worry, we're not done with this list just yet though. This game caught me by surprise. It starts pretty much like all the others with a simple black and white scene, but the weird part is that there aren't any turtles. Scrolling the scene reveals a chest on the sea floor, and by grabbing the key from the panda in the boat, you can unlock not just the chest, but the actual game in all its colourful glory. Much like the previous game, it's a pretty cool reveal and actually showcases what Anatoly is capable of as a developer. In addition to a fully coloured and animated scene, there are also several areas that you can click on to go inside into a smaller scene with more hidden turtles, as well as some lighting effects as you go deeper into the water. This is also the first and only game where some of the hidden objects are moving in the scene, with some of the turtles swimming in a circular pattern that is partially off the edge of the screen. Unfortunately, the game loses some points due to having some unfair hiding places, and for a lack of clear indication of when a turtle has been found. I spent ages trying to find the final one, checking the scene up and down multiple times, only to discover that I was overlooking it because it happened to be a colour that made it look like it had already been found. This game cost $3.89, gave yet another 100 achievements, and took 15 minutes to beat. It was almost S tier, but got brought down to a solid A. A for aliens abducting aquatic animals. We're finally back to an entry by 100 Cozy Games with 100 Istanbul cats. Simply put, the art here is just gorgeous. There's a high level of zoom to see the fine details, and the cats are very well hidden, almost unfairly so in some cases, especially when it's just the head of the cat present or no body or tail. The cats are removed from the scene after finding them, allowing you to enjoy the art, and there are hints available when you're down to the last 10, a feature I'm always grateful to see. The music doesn't loop as well as it could have, which deducts some points, but it also gains some from the fact that it's free, with optional DLC for an extra level or other goodies. There's 100 achievements to earn, and it only took me 10 minutes to finish. This feels like an easy A tier, and it was going to be. Until I checked the reviews. If you have good eyes and cultural knowledge, you may have spotted that while the architecture is correct for Istanbul, the clothing being worn is closer to what one would expect from the people from Arabic regions. That said, I'm not particularly knowledgeable on this topic, and I didn't really notice this until I was looking at the Steam reviews, and many users pointed this out. It seems that not a lot of cultural research was done, and this even extends to the names of the cats, which, according to one reviewer, appear to just be words chosen at random. I checked a few, and these seem to actually be in Turkish, which is a good start, but some are random words like balek, which translates to fish. It seems an odd name for a cat, but maybe it's more common in Turkey. Due to this, I'm going to lower the score from an A to a C. The C stands for culturally insensitive. Hopefully their next game, 100 March Cats, can redeem them. And, well, the answer is kind of. This one is certainly much simpler, returning to the black and white style and highlighting the cats when found instead of removing them from the scene. The art is still quite detailed, but less cluttered than the last game, but they seem to be somewhat lacking inspiration. It feels like the artists came together and went, what's important in March? Spring, Women's Day, and flowers. Yeah, that'll do. Other than a few warped cats like the one literally wrapped around a car tire, there's not really anything particularly challenging to be found here. It's also free with optional DLC and 3 Steam Workshop items for $13.69 each, took 4 minutes to beat and awarded 100 achievements. Very mediocre, middle of the road end result, so a C tier feels fair for this one. C for, come on, we're nearly there, 5 games to go. This next game should, in theory, be the most difficult of them all, as we're looking for 100 ninja cats, and ninja are known for being stealthy and sneaky. So I was a strange mixture of disappointed and relieved to discover that while that may be true for ninjas, it's not true for ninja cats. The artwork is a bit more detailed than last time, making it a bit more challenging as well, as the cats actually have some decent hiding places, but nothing unfair. It was still surprisingly easy, only taking 6 minutes to beat. It is also free, with 3 paid DLC items and 5 Steam Workshop items as additional purchases. Oh, and of course there are 100 more achievements. Because it wasn't brain dead easy, this one scores a B tier. B for Byakugan, the best ninja ability for finding hidden things. I don't have a good segue for this one, but here we are, looking for 100 RoboCats. Considering the title, there are a surprising number of normal cats to be found, but I was pleased to see that some of them, albeit very few, are actually RoboCats. But my disappointment is still high. The art in this one feels more messy and looks more rushed, with some of the cats being squashed or in unnatural poses, which looks quite odd compared to the softer, rounder ones seen in previous games. They are also incredibly poorly hidden, making this game an absolute piece of cake to finish, taking only 3 minutes, one of the fastest games in this list. The music was okay, but there weren't any animations or optional objectives. As with other games from 100 Cozy Games, this one is also free with 3 optional paid DLC and 5 Steam Workshop items to purchase, and another 100 achievements. This one scores a D tier. D for didn't have enough RoboCats. We're on to the final entry for 100 Cozy Games, 100 Space Cats. This is another game of theirs in full colour, but for whatever reason, the art itself is a much lower quality compared to 100 Istanbul Cats. The lines aren't sharp and are incomplete in places, which causes the colours to overflow slightly, giving everything a messy, scribbled look and feel. Now, in all fairness, this might be intentional. But to me, it simply feels like a lack of care was put into it, and they should have been holding themselves to higher standards. It feels rushed, like they had a tight deadline to beat, possibly because they were attempting a fully coloured product. By contrast, the cats are often made only from simple line work, meaning they take on the colour of the background and can be quite difficult to spot. This would have been fine if it weren't for the fact that some need to be clicked on in very specific places, otherwise it wouldn't register correctly. As with the other games, this one is also free, with 3 optional paid DLC items, but no Steam Workshop items this time. It took 3 minutes to beat and gave another 100 achievements. I'm giving this one an E tier, because at least it's not AI art. The E stands for ending on a low note. So, here's the state of the tier list as it currently stands. But I have a surprise bonus round for you. There are 2 games with not 100 hidden things, but 101. At the 11th hour, we have a new developer entering the scene. Napesoft with 101 cats hidden. Hidden where? Doesn't matter, they're just hidden. So better get on with finding them. Let's have a quick peek at the settings menu, which is actually a bit strange, as we have a slider for volume but a toggle for music on or off instead of another slider. Weird choice, but serviceable enough. The artwork in the scene looks similar to previous games at first glance, but the UI is noticeably different, with sliders for brightness and zoom levels and a timer in the top right, which could be useful for those wanting another hidden object game to speedrun. Looking at the art more closely, there is a strange mix of styles which can be seen with the different line work, some thick and bold, others thin and detailed. The potted plants in particular stick out like a sore thumb, indicating that the devs may have used some pre-made assets to help fill out the scene. The cats themselves are pretty well hidden, but only because some of them are a bit warped, such as showing only a head, and they are also very small, even when zoomed in. In a nice touch though, a floating pop-up showing the name of the cat you found appears when clicking on them, which adds some personality to each cat. Strangely, there aren't 101 achievements, only 100. So one of the cats apparently is incredibly unpopular and doesn't deserve to be recognised. This game costs $1.29, has no DLC, and took 8 minutes to beat. I'm giving this one a B tier. B for Bella the Blobcat. Napesoft have made one more of these games, 101 Cats Hidden in Dubai, so apparently the location matters in this one. I honestly don't have much to say about this one. It was basically the same as the previous game, but with a different scene. The menus, the UI, the art, including the blend of 2 different styles, was all exactly the same. It's the same price, $1.29. It also hates one cat in particular, so it only gives 100 achievements instead of 101, and weirdly, it also took 8 minutes to beat. So it only feels fair to give it the same final score. B tier. The B stands for Bonus Rounds Part 2! I tricked you, we're not done yet. I saved 2 games for the end of the list because while these 2 are also hidden object games, they are also substantially different to everything else we've looked at so far, primarily because they are 3D exploration games. Starting with 100 Chests, a game developed and published by William Brown. William, if you happen to watch this review, you should know that I don't like you very much. Here's why. 100 Chests is a first-person exploration game where you will walk around an island and hunt for 100 chests. Sounds simple enough. However, this island is massive, and even when holding shift to sprint, your movement speed is incredibly slow. The game does have music, but for whatever reason, it's barely audible compared to the sound effects, and there is no way to compensate for it in the settings, because there aren't any settings. And because the island is massive, You have to explore it painstakingly slowly, otherwise you risk missing a chest and having to scour the entire island again in an attempt to find it. The torch in your hand looks like a poorly modelled marshmallow on a stick, and the rest of the environment is equally low poly. With the shadows at sunset, it's attractive enough at times, but the repeating and reused assets only increase the ever-looming feeling of boredom, as you wander this island devoid of life and fun. It's also incredibly inconsistent. You can't walk through most trees, except for the ones you can. Most rocks and plants are on the ground, except the ones that aren't. It all feels lazily put together, as if the dev knew they needed an environment to hide things in, but didn't really care how it looked. You might think I'm being harsh, but I want you to know that I spent literally hours playing this game. I found 98 of the chests, and then found a section of beach with 3 chests on it that were already open. It turns out there are 3 coins hidden in the map that are secondary collectibles, but they don't appear in your inventory after picking them up. Instead, the inventory only shows the books you've found, which don't appear to do anything anyway. Oh, and the cursor stays on screen after closing the inventory, and you need to click to make it go away. After eventually finding all 3 coins, a ship appears and I find the final 2 chests. Oh, but we're not done yet. There's an entire other level, and this one is at night, so it's even harder to find things. There's another secondary objective that involves collecting crystals, and of course there are another 100 chests to find. And now, I'm going to be totally honest with you, I gave up on this one. I managed to find 99 chests and 9 out of 10 hidden books. I'm confident that finding the last book would have made the final chest accessible, but for the life of me, I couldn't find it. I scoured the internet for clues but turned up nothing. And after I quit and returned to the game, it turns out that while it will save your chests, it won't save the books, so you have to recollect them. I tried, and ended up finding less than I had before, so after a total of 4.5 hours of wandering around, lost and depressed in the dark, I decided it was time to throw in the towel. If someone does manage to find them and links me to a guide, I'll go back and finish the job, but for now, for the sake of my sanity, I need to press onwards. 100 chests cost $3.39, and I earned 6 out of a possible 12 achievements, so my rating is D tier. The D is for don't play this game if you value your mental health. Finally, for real this time, we have reached the last game on the list, 100 Dogs. Developed and published by Nemo Dev, this is another first-person exploration game, and this one gets several things right that 100 Chests did not. Firstly, it actually has an options menu. It's bare bones, with only music, effects, and sensitivity sliders, but at least it's there. I'd recommend turning the music off as it gets pretty repetitive, and the tracks aren't equalized, with some being much louder than others. In terms of gameplay, you'll be wandering a surprisingly detailed neighborhood searching for 100 dogs. Some are on benches, some are chilling in the street, and some are literally in the sky. It's a decently large area to explore, but much smaller than the islands in 100 Chests, but I would argue that the dogs are more tricky to find, simply because of the amount of clutter and potential hiding places. After sweeping the area several times and nearly an hour of gameplay, I had found 95 out of 100 dogs. But I needed to take a quick break, so I hit escape and clicked on save, then returned to the main menu. It was after returning to the menu that I found where the controls are shown, and realized that there is a hint button. Amazing! Excited to find the final handful I was missing, I went back in immediately. Imagine my horror when I saw that the counter had reset to 0. An hour of gameplay gone in an instant. Still, I had the hint system now, which reveals the general area a dog is hiding in, so I was able to push through and finish the level with all dogs found. The last one was a jerk though, hiding up on top of a roller door. After a brief animation that shows off some of the details in the town, it's back to the main menu and... oh no. There are 3 more levels to beat. There's a Western level with 21 dogs, a Japanese level with 23 dogs, and my worst nightmare, another island level. This one was actually pretty fun though, as there are actually some boats scattered around that you can pilot to navigate between islands, but it does slow down the gameplay significantly due to the travel time involved. There are 120 dogs scattered over this massive level, and I'm proud to say that I eventually found them all. Returning to the main menu, there is actually a statistics section, as apparently the dog models are randomized with different rarities and chances of appearing. I found one of every type, including the legendary Hellhound. These don't seem to do anything, but they are some fun stats. 100 Dogs is the most expensive game in this list, coming in at $4.99. It took me 2 hours and 54 minutes to beat the game, and I earned only 11 out of 23 possible achievements, because some of them require beating a specific level 100 times. I award 100 Dogs a B tier, and the B stands for believe it or not, we've finished this list. To wrap this up, here's the final tier list and stats, and here are my final thoughts and feelings on this whole experience and the 100 Hidden Objects games in general. Don't do it. At least, not like this. This wasn't worth it. I may have found 100 cats, dogs, hares, fish, frogs, turtles, and every other animal, but what I lost was some of my sanity. There were a few games that managed to surprise me, and I think the advice I have is that if you want to check out any games from this genre, obviously check out the S tier ones. You might have some fun, but only maybe. I sincerely hope that I never have to do a tier list like this again, but I also know there are a whole slew of 1001 piece puzzles coming up in the not too distant future. In terms of my ongoing rankings, consider everything a C tier or above a thumbs up, and everything else should be avoided like the plague. I'm also mindful that putting together this tier list means that we've played a few games out of order, so we'll be going back to fill in the gaps, but I think it was worth it, just to be able to create this utterly ridiculous video. I hope you found this entertaining, maybe even helpful. If you're still here, please consider leaving a like or a comment, or both, your call. Your comments keep me motivated to keep working on this series, so thank you for your support. You're awesome. And of course, thanks for watching. Welcome to the end of the video. As always, a massive thank you to all the channel members on screen for supporting the channel, with a special thank you to our Knight of the Holy Grail, Freaky Feline. I'd also like to thank you for joining me on this weird gaming adventure through the depths of Steam, and if you've made it this far, here's a sneak peek of the next game. Until next time, take care.